Hey guys, I'm home, just got home from Children of Bodom, Swallow the Sun, Wolfheart. So this was their Toronto stop, their fourth stop on this North American tour that's going to see them going from the East Coast, actually Canada, US, East Coast, West Coast, back to the East Coast to finish off the tour in New York. This is a huge tour for these bands, huge, massive North American tour, three massive bands with massive following, three bands that are very unique in their own way, even though there's some similarities in their sound, but they're very unique and they bring something to the table. Three bands that have new albums. Wolfheart released theirs in the fall of 2018, but this year Swallow the Sun and later Children of Bodom released their brand new albums. So all three bands has new material to play for their fans, have new songs to add to their set list. There's enough to go around for everybody to be excited about going to this show. You have bands performing new songs from their new albums. You have three killer bands on the same lineup. You don't get that all the time. And you get three bands that are very unique but very good at what they do. Bands that really set the bar as far as quality metal is concerned. So I was really looking forward to checking out this tour stop because I really wanted to see how each band was going to play, what songs they were going to add to their set. But also, I wanted to see how the whole dynamic of the show is going to be, because it's not every night that you get to go and see these three or any bands of this caliber together in one sitting. It's absolutely incredible. So I'm going to break down the sets in three. I'm going to talk about Wolfheart, Swallow the Sun, and then Children of Bodom. I really think that's the best way for me to give you guys a little bit of a preview in case you're thinking or you're going to one of these North American stops. This way you have a little bit of info in terms of what to expect from the show. All right, let's start with Wolfheart. There's a lot to unpack from Wolfheart. Perhaps of the three bands, Wolfheart is the one that I feel like I have the most to unpack from because they're the ones that gave me the most. They've played in North America three times, including this one, three times now in less than a year. They did a North American tour with Quebec and Morse Principe Est, and they did a Canadian tour in the summertime of last year just by themselves as a headliner. So this is the third time playing in North America in less than a year. They were intelligent, smart, conscious, and aware of what the fans deserve, want, and should have and should get. And what they did was they changed their set around completely. They still played a couple of songs from the new album like Breakwater and Everlasting Fall, but they incorporated songs that they hadn't played in the previous two tours. Extremely important. Extremely important because if you're like me and you've been to the shows before, you've seen them now three times, you're really hoping for something different. Having said that, I wouldn't mind if they played the same songs. I love Wolfheart. I could hear Wolfheart live every day of the week. So I wouldn't be too upset if they played Zero Gravity 10 times in one set, just to give you guys an example. But at the same time, not everybody's like me. And then if you've seen them once and this is maybe your second time or your third time, you really want to get perhaps something different. You really want to hear a song or two that you perhaps haven't heard before. And that's exactly what they did. They finished actually the night, their set with Boneyard. They started with Everlasting Fall. They finished with Boneyard. So I really like the fact that they were conscious enough to make that decision to really change their set because they've played here before and they didn't want things to get stale. They didn't want the fans to come out and see them play the same songs all over again. So they were very conscious of that. And to me, that kudos to them. I wish more bands took that approach and thought exactly about what the fans want and need and, more important, deserve. So they did that. They adapted their set based on what they had played before in those two tours. They adapted it in order to add songs that they hadn't played live before in this part of the world. Kudos to them for doing that. So that is the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing is for this tour, they have two session musicians. They have a bass player and a guitar player. I'm not going to go into a lot of details because there's something coming up on the channel about that. We had some nice conversation with those guys. So there's something coming up in the next couple of minutes after you watch this video. Something will be up. So you'll find out more about that. But they have two new session players for this North American tour. The guys kick absolute ass. They're Americans, two guys from the US that are traveling with them and playing with them. The guitar player, absolutely phenomenal. I told Thomas after the show that it's not every day that you see somebody pull off the stuff that Mika does and be as close to Mika as he was. He was absolutely incredible. He looked like he belonged there. Same thing with Nathan on bass. This was Joseph on guitar, Nathan on bass. They felt to me, and I said this to Thomas at the end of the show, they felt to me like they were Wolfheart. It didn't feel to me like they didn't belong. It didn't feel like they were scared or nervous to be on stage. They looked the part, and they felt extremely comfortable. They had a huge stage presence, specifically Nathan on bass, really commanding the crowd, really getting the crowd hyped. He was great. Both of them were great at what they do as far as playing their instruments and really playing well those instruments and playing those Wolfheart songs to perfection. But on the other side of things, they were good on stage. They had good stage presence. They felt comfortable. They looked comfortable. They looked like they played the part. And more important, if I didn't know that they were filling in musicians for this tour, I would totally think that they were part of Wolfheart. So you're really not going to get a lesser product from Wolfheart just by having 2 session musicians on this tour. You're really not, because these guys are extremely talented. They're young. They're hungry. They really want to go at it. They want to get a name for themselves. They want to promote their own bands that they're in. So these guys are really willing to put everything on the line every single show, and it showed tonight in Toronto how good they are as musicians and how good they are with Wolfheart, how well they've been able to blend with Jonas and Thomas. It's not easy. You're coming into that situation, but they were able to blend in perfectly well, put on a great show from Wolfheart tonight. Comes Swallow the Sun. Now, Swallow the Sun, much different from Wolfheart. Obviously, you guys know that. I was really blown away with Swallow the Sun. It was one of those bands that I just kind of like took a step back, and I just let the music dictate my mood and dictate how I would feel about that performance. It's just the dim lights, the everything about Swallow the Sun tonight, everything about their performance. Nothing is at chance. Everything happens because there's a reason for it, and it adds atmosphere to the performance. It adds atmosphere to the music, and they do it well. They do it with class. They do it with style. Absolutely incredible musicians all around. All of them absolutely amazing musicians. What a treat. You hear their CDs, you hear their music, you're a fan, you love what they do, but when you actually get to see them live, they transport the atmosphere of their tracks, the emotion of their tracks to their live performances. It's almost like they're playing that song for the first time and they feeling that raw emotion that drove them to create that song. You really get that from them. And then when you add the dim lights, the dark lights, all of that stuff that goes around the live performance, it just adds to it. It just really enhances the experience, enhances the music. It becomes not just an experience for 2 senses, if you will. Your vision, your eyes that you're watching the show, and your ears that you're listening to the music. It almost transcends those. It almost becomes palpable, almost like you can taste it. It just gives the whole night a completely different vibe. They really brought the mood down. They bring darkness. They have this aura of them around them that just really captivates you as a listener. You just absolutely focus on them. It's almost like you focus on one of them. It was really hard for me to just kind of look at all of them from far and see the overall performance. I almost always focused on one or the other and just really paid attention on how they were playing the guitar or how they were playing the bass or how the vocals were being delivered. They're just a band that's so methodic in their approach to music that just brings they don't bring baggage, they bring luggage of emotion with every single note, with every single word, and that really came across tonight. The venue is perfect for it, and the lighting, it was absolutely amazing because it just really elevated the performance to a whole new level. It just really brought the lyrics to life. I absolutely loved Swallow the Sun tonight. They were amazing. Then Children of Bodom. Now, going into Children of Bodom, there were a couple of things on my mind. I didn't check any of the set lists from any of the bands going on tonight. And normally I do, so I have an idea at least what the songs are going to be. Tonight I didn't do that. I really wanted to be surprised. I really wanted to not know what's coming next. Because sometimes when you know the song that comes next, you kind of mentally check out of a certain song because you're kind of looking forward to another song that's coming down the line. So I didn't want to do that. I really want to go in and enjoy every single song, not knowing the song that comes next. But to me, as far as Children of Bodom is concerned, I've seen them before. I was really looking forward to the new stuff. Not that I don't like the old stuff. I really like the old stuff. But I've seen them play the old stuff before. So there's nothing new there for me. Obviously, I still enjoy listening to those songs live. It's still, every performance is a unique performance and it's a different performance. But to me, going into this, I really enjoy Hexed. I think it's really an amazing album that they put out. Really incredible record. It's going to be one of my, I think it's really going to be one of my top records for the year. I mean, the year's still young. There's still a lot to come. But it's just a really well-crafted album. So I really wanted to see what songs from that record they were going to pick and put into their set. And then, perhaps more important, I wanted to see how that live sound was going to be. I wanted to see how that would translate into a live setting, how the performance would be. Those were the question marks for me personally going into their performance. And then, because the other side of things is, I've seen Children of Bodom at this venue, and it was perhaps the most insane concert that I've ever been to. Absolutely madness. So I was expecting the same thing. From that perspective, before we talk about the music, from that perspective, I wasn't disappointed. The moment they walk on stage and they hit the first note, the place was lit up. There were the crowd surfers everywhere, the big mosh pit. The place went absolutely berserk the moment they walked. And the thing is, it never stopped. It never stopped. From the moment they walked on stage and they played that first note to the moment they unplugged the guitars and they threw some drumsticks to the crowd, the place was absolutely packed and insane. The atmosphere was electric. These guys are one of the few bands that I've seen in Toronto really bring the most out of the crowd. The first time I saw them was an all ages show, so I was kind of like, oh, maybe because there was a lot of young people, you get that extra energy. Tonight was 19 and over, and the energy was still there. So this is a band that every time I've seen them live so far in the city of Toronto, they've always elevated the crowd. Not just elevated themselves, they've elevated the crowd. The crowd just erupts the moment these guys come on stage. Absolutely electric. It becomes a show within the show. Then, as far as the songs are concerned, they were flawless. I really like these guys. If I have to be critical, I'm going to say that they were better this time around than 2 years ago when I saw them. They actually were a lot better live. They sounded a lot more crisp. They sounded like the rust was all gone, and they played flawlessly. I really enjoyed their live set. I really enjoyed their show. Professional about it. Not a lot of interaction with the audience, but that's something that I already was expecting going in. None of the bands today really, their style is really not that, so you can't ask an orange to be an apple. It's just, it is what it is. But very professional about it. Just one song after another, just really pumping out songs. And they incorporated a lot of the songs from the album. They incorporated the singles. And it was nice to hear those songs live, and it was nice to see the reaction from people every time they were announcing that they were playing. I mean, when they announced they're playing an older song, an old school song, everybody goes crazy, and that's expected. But I wasn't expecting necessarily the same reaction of the new songs. I've been to shows where bands play the old stuff, everybody goes nuts, and then the moment they play one of the new songs, everybody quiets down and it gets really calm. I didn't get that from Children of Bodom at all, which tells me the crowd knew the material, they have the album, they listen to it, and they like it. Because the moment they played a new song, the level of intensity never really dropped from an old school song to a new song. It was always steady, it was always balanced. And they did a really good job in how they balance the set in terms of not putting too many of the new songs together and then a bunch of older songs, and they really spaced them out. So you would get a couple of old hits, you get a new track, a couple of old hits, and a new track. So I really like how they did it. I thought it was really well balanced. They did an amazing job. They had 2 songs on the encore. It was a long set. It could always be longer, obviously, but it was a good evening. 3 amazing bands that put on an amazing show. If this tour is passing around you, you have to go, because you're really not going to be defrauded. It is worth the money that you're paying for admission. You're getting 3 incredible bands that perhaps you'll never have a chance to see on the same night ever again. So you don't want to miss the opportunity to go see them. All three incredible, all three super talented, all three with new records. So all three have something new to offer to you, the listener. Even if you've seen them before, you're really going to be able to hear songs that you haven't heard before. So don't want to miss the show. You really want to go. I had a great time, but now I got to go to bed. All right, guys. So I'll see you tomorrow on another video. Take care.